This is The Goode Show. I'm Surinder, a proud military spouse of 26 years. My guy retired as a Command Master Chief after serving 30 years as a Navy SEAL. I'm also a mom, an entrepreneur, and an advocate for the military community. Here at The Goode Show, we delve into the inspiring lives of military spouses. From navigating deployments to building thriving businesses, we're here to empower, educate, and connect. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's get into it, because The Goode Show is where your story matters. Welcome to this week's episode. My name is Surinder. I am your host, and this is The Goode Show, and I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. Okay. I've interviewed a lot of people on the show about entrepreneurship, and it's mostly been adults, So when this story came to me, I was incredibly impressed with Charlie Johnson and also her father, veteran Marine Corps T.Shane Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I know that Charlie today is feeling a little bit under the weather, so I hope we catch her at some other time.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. She was upset she was going to miss this, but we've been traveling back and forth between Reno and Las Vegas, and she's been doing all of her stuff. So I think she just caught a little bug and down and out on me.
Now, while we're talking about Charlie, I've got to ask you, this is, she came to you when she was, what, 6 years old and said that, well, what did she say?
So she wanted to start a business. It's funny. I've been so fortunate to share this story so many different times, and as a dad, there's different perspectives that I sit and look at it. For one, I'm in awe because I put myself kind of in a seat backwards, and I watch her and I watch people and inspire her and encourage her, which is, as a father, just in general, is so impressive. How she handles it, the whole approach, and we were just talking about this. Maybe it was yesterday. I had an old picture of her when she was little or something. And no, I'm sorry. It was day before yesterday, and we had gotten an announcement from Target that they wanted us in their stores
Oh,
nationwide.
wow.
And she started crying. And I said, "Why are you crying?" And she's like, "Dad, I can't believe that, just 4 or 5 years ago, this was just a little idea. And now I'm in Walmart and Sprouts and Target and doing all this stuff." And she's like, "It's just incredible how many, people support me." And we're going to casting call for Shark Tank next month. And
Nice.
just all these like really, really great things. So when she came up with this idea, it was really a culmination of all of my life experiences, the challenges I've been through, the work I had done with the homeless community, the world records I had done, my military time, my childhood. And it really got to this tipping point to where I was writing this book and I had this manuscript. And the name of the book was called Done by 2:30.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a culmination. It was a book that was basically kind of getting people to be more aware of being better CEOs of their home than their business.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that when your children come to you and they say something, validate it, make it important, make it valuable, because of all of the turmoil that I saw in the world was a byproduct of everything that happened back at the house, and mainly absentee fathers. And so I never wanted to be in that position. So when she says, I'm going to start a business, I think it was just like if she would have said she wanted to start dance, or she wanted
Uh-huh.
to, go play soccer. And I was like, well, you got to put the work in, you're going to learn, you're going to do it. And I just thought of it a really great lesson. So, I told her, come up with the name and the logo and we'll make it happen. And 20 minutes later, she came up with Big Guns Coffee and a little coffee cup with a little muscle on it and on the arm. And I said, "Charlie," I said, "why'd you call it Big Guns Coffee?" And he's like, "Oh, wow." She's like, "Not everybody can be strong like you, Dad, and do all these world records." She's
Oh,
like, "But maybe they can feel like it."
oh
So I was
my
like, "All right." But
gosh.
now she will tell that story if she was on here. I need to at least give her some respect here because she likes to rag me a little bit. So when we first started it, I'm a motivational speaker by trade.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, "Oh, let's call it T. Shane Inspires Cafe." I thought that would just be so great. And she likes to tell that story. So she likes to say, "Can you believe Dad was going to call it T. Shane Inspires Cafe? So this name is horrible." So I wanted to put her part in there because I knew she would remind me of that. So we did not name it T. Shane's Cafe. We went with Big Guns Coffee. Hers was way better.
I love it. And you know what amazes me is, when you talk about parenting, each to their own, because your child is very different from the next. I am a firm believer in feeding the curiosity. So, to your point, when your kid comes to you at that age, regardless of age, and hey, this is what I'm thinking, I always think my job is to feed that curiosity. Maybe it's maybe it's their gig, maybe it isn't, but they're learning something. So, you know, it couldn't have been an easy feat, though. I mean, when you think about it, as a parent, you've got a lot of things going on. You like you said, motivational speaker and the world push-up record. How many push-ups is that? Because I did 10 today.
Three thousand. It's been broken since, but when I did it, it was 3,050 in an hour.
Okay, so I got a ways to go.
You're so close. You're very close.
Yeah, you've got a lot of stuff going on. So now Charlie comes back to you. You said a couple of months later, she's got the logo, she's got the name. Where do you go from there? Because do you look at, okay, you're at school, what is the time frame like? What are we looking at here? How did you approach that?
So I'm not that kind of person at all. And honestly, I was just having a meeting about this. I do not do well with those personalities. And I mean that in a good way, meaning
Hmm.
that like a lot of people, the analysis paralysis, they'll think something, think something, think
Yeah,
something, think
yeah.
something. We should have structure and we should have this. I don't disagree with that. I do think that at some point structure is important, but activity sometimes and sales can override most of your operational and cash flow problems and so on and so forth. You never want to stop the shark from swimming because then it'll
No.
die. So I'm like what they like to call a trigger guy. So for me, my whole entrepreneurial spirit of as a speaker is based on that whole premise. Is that if you have a dream and a vision, thinking about it is just minimizing the time and opportunity that you have to actually ever do it. And time, when you die and been through the experiences I've been through, you start to maybe have a competitive advantage over most, where you appreciate time a little differently. So for me, rather than sit around and think about the SWOT analysis and the business plan and the structure and all of that fun stuff, at the end of the day, you just do it. So
Yes. Yeah.
when she wanted to do it, we just did it. I mean, it was literally she tells the story. I think it was probably like 7 hours later. I had got the website together. I bought the domain. We put the structure in. I'd taken her logo, sent it to Fiverr, had somebody drop the logo. We slapped it on the website, and then we pushed that on social media. And then my goal was, let's get our first sale. I wanted her to. This was a massive lesson in teaching her that a lot of people will live. The most valuable place in the world is a grave, right? Because that's where everybody dies with their dreams. And the cure for cancer, all of these different things that could have been resolved are probably sitting somewhere in a grave because someone never took the action to do it. And I don't like to think like that way. And I didn't want to put that cancer in her brain. I wanted her to think to herself, if she wanted to do something, we do it immediately. We jump on it, and we go with massive action. And that's what we did. And next it was a trailer, and then it was always a way to learn with
Mm.
coffee because there's so many different parts to the business. So we're able to learn interpersonal skills, selling, public speaking, storytelling, marketing, operational,
Oh, yeah.
all of these great things. So we just went really fast, really hard with it. As far as school, I just yanked her out of school. We went right to homeschool. And it was just really that moment of like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, this is really what it's about. You quit your 9 to 5 corporate job, right? Which was the
Yep.
school structure. You jump into something full force with your partner, and then you just go at it and realizing you got that euphoric high feeling. You've got to ride that momentum as quickly
Hmm.
as possible. And then once you get that first sale, you've accomplished,
Hmm.
you've proven concept. Now
Hmm.
concept's proven. Now you just got to repeat it over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes really boring. Do it some more.
Something I love how you've just said that because I've said to people as well when I talk about starting a business, first of all, you got to start. You got to start. It's as simple as that, I learn by doing. So to your point, I can't read a book and I can't write down the SWOT analysis and all of that. And to be quite honest with you, T. Shane, there's a lot of stuff out there that I don't understand when I read it. But when I've put it into practice, I've thought to myself, wow, that was a big word. I mean, that was a big word to describe, hey, just do it. So, and again with the coffee business, I missed out a lot on the roasting of the beans because obviously I chose to go to a roaster to get my coffee, when I set up on base. But again, my first sale was 575 and I was on cloud nine because I was like, you've only got to do it once because yes, the concept is there. So, okay, so now you've taken Charlie out of school and she's homeschooling and you guys have started to rock and roll this. How did she, obviously, incredibly smart kid. incredibly smart kid to know that, okay, I'm going to be homeschooled. Do you feel that that disrupted her in any way, the homeschooling?
Not at all. If anything, I think it opened up her mind to so many things. The hardest part I think about raising a child is there's a lot of hard parts. I'd say one of the hardest things is making the right decisions, right?
Oh yeah.
Because there's no rule book and there's no rhyme or reason to what you do. You just kind of go with it. And I think for me, what I really wanted her to understand was that she has to be able to provide value. Providing value will always allow you to get money. If you have no value, it's going to be a lot harder to chase money. And though people don't like to talk about money and it's taboo and they look at it and it's greed and so on and so forth, I think that's a whole bunch of BS because the reality of it is that without money you can't give. Without money you can't do the things that you need to do. There's a difference between using money for wrong and using money for right. And I think that you can be both happy and wealthy, both
Yeah.
in mind and in your bank account. I don't think there's a one or the other, or one makes you more happy versus the other.
No.
I think that we live in, a first world country, live in one of the best, the best country in the world. And, we have resources that most don't, and we must take advantage of them rather than feeling guilty for them. So I really taught her that, the value of being able to speak, articulate, and communicate is the key to first and everything, because no matter what product you're selling, if you can sell yourself and you can articulate in a way to connect with people, then yeah, I just taught her
Yeah.
how to fish, right? Like she doesn't have to worry about it. So it was really just a matter of and again, that kind of dialogue with your child is important. Adults are so pretentious. Like we think we are so self-centered and think we got to know everything, right? We
Hmm.
got to know it all, and we don't know it all, and you don't respect us. And I don't like that. I love how children think. Children take each other's advice and they work together, and it's just
Hmm.
so easy for them.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, so I treat my daughter that same way. She used to ask me, now she knows. She used to ask me that question all the time. She's like, "How do you trust me so much with sitting in front of a room with the executives and just selling the company?" And I was like, why wouldn't I? Like, you're
Yeah.
amazing. You do it. And it's built her confidence up so much. So that was the real thing is that, when I took her out of school, it was more about just having that conversation with her and saying, look, this is why we're doing it. This is the
Hmm.
opportunities. This allows you to springboard and you're not being held back by other kids, their thought processes, their ideas.
Hmm.
This can allow you to grow. I think there's a lot of really great, smart children out there that unfortunately can't go the place they need to because of the way the system kind of controls them.
Hmm.
It's a very socialist thought process when you think about school and how that dynamic is.
It's crazy. I've got a 21-year-old son, Jake, and a 15-year-old daughter, Jordan. And Jake actually moved out the house. He's had a part-time job, in a bar, expediting food, whatever. And he's, at SDSU. And from the outside, it all, it was picture perfect for him. He wanted SDSU, he wanted the whole 9 yards. And a couple of months ago, T.Shane, he came home and he sat us down and he went, "Hey, listen, this is how I feel about the education system. This is where your money is going. And I want you to know I am not learning anything." He said, "I read from a book 6 hours a day. You ask the teacher a question, she refers you back to the book. I'm not learning anything." So it was the first time in ever, actually, um, I divulged to my kids I did not get my degree. Halfway through schooling, I decided this was not my cup of tea and I left and went to the Middle East. I've always known that the big words are not for me. I just want to work. And that's my kid. He said, "Mom, I just want to work. I want to build something. I want to create something. What it is, I don't know." He said, "But I know that that environment is not for me." So we basically said to him, "Look, our job is to set you up for success, dude. And it's not always in a classroom." And I always say to people, you got to find something you like because then it's not work. And the hardest thing really is dealing with other people. Once you can deal with other people and you know your lefts and rights kind of thing, just keep on going. Keep on going. Let people say the white noise from family I heard when I was starting my coffee business. "Oh, she's starting a coffee business." Oh. And I thought, what? But I think it was that kind of thing as well that kind of made me have that kind of like, yeah, you watch me go now. But I just, and I'm assuming that your teachings to Charlie in what you want her to learn, obviously are like lessons that you've come across in, in your life that, okay, this is important. I'm going to show my kid, at an early age so she can understand certain things. The basics, that's what we call them in our house. It's just the basics. You got to know the basics, being kind to people, being humble, doing a good day's work, Um, and sitting in front of a room of CEOs. I've said the same to my daughter. Why would I not trust you? You're my kid. You're the one person, in our four walls. You trust your partner, you trust your kids, you know? So
Well, I mean, if you can't believe in them, well, how do they expect anybody else to believe in them? I mean, you're the foundation, you know. I mean, you're their God until they understand the concept of that. Your spirituality, your inner food, your actual
yeah,
food, sleep, your shelter. I mean, that's a powerful position to sit in, and we as adults just throw it by the wayside, just in some type of pragmatic structure of an operational day. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, when you have the choice to be a leader to the most amazing human who also thinks that you're the most amazing human,
yeah,
there should just be a massive amount of opportunities there for you to do so many great things. I think we take our positions as parents as just some type of superiority structure of I'm going to do it the way this way, blah blah blah, and it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, my daughter
it
is
doesn't.
she's is to me, what kind of dad would I be is if every time she wanted to have a dream, I just pushed it to the side. I
Yeah,
just don't believe that. I think this girl is on a run and I'm going to back her until the day I die and do whatever I can to support her. And pretty soon she's already at the point where she won't need me for that. She can walk right into a room. She can close deals. She can count her money. She can do her paycheck. I mean, at this point,
that's
she knows more
amazing.
than 90% of grown adults that I know. So,
I
my best.
I've said to spouses, as I've given talks to spouses, I say to them, I think of deployments are hard and there's a lot that goes in that. However, what other profession is there in the world really where you get to hog your kids all to yourself? You get to find out what makes them tick, their little personalities, yeah, was it hard when my guy was always on deployments? Yeah, but T-Shane, again, I know my kids. Like we've had amazing conversations and silly conversations because it's quite selfishly he wasn't around, so I had them all to me. And there's that time goes by so fast. Like I said, my kid's 21. I don't see him anymore. That time went by too fast. So I always say to, whoever is staying at home for a deployment, this is a great opportunity to figure out what makes your kid tick, you know what I mean? Really bond with them. So again, huge, huge kudos to you for having that kind of mindset. So I'm going to go back to the business. I want to ask, so the ideas happened, you guys, I love the fact that you said, and then, we have the idea and then there's massive action. You how did you go though from, okay, here's the idea, I gotta find a coffee bean, I gotta find the coffee. Explain that little portion to me, like how did you get there?
You know, when we decided we wanted to do it, I started online first. So we started online and we got I want to say maybe it was a popcorn maker or a pan. And we started pan roasting and learning about pan roasting. And we just thought, you know what, we'll start with the thought process of putting together a couple little bags. We'll put it out on social media. I had a pretty good following as a speaker, kind of talking about it and built it around her business and the uniqueness of what's doing and kind of start to develop that story.
Mm,
And then I really, I was kind of on the verge of my speaking tour and everything was pinning down. I was really focused on this. I said, you know what? Let's get a coffee trailer. Let's just start with a little coffee trailer. Let's get out there and we'll work it together and we'll talk about it. And I didn't think of it anywhere where it would be today or continuing to go. And I just thought, just be something I could selfishly hang out with my kid. We would make a couple of bucks, have some fun, talk to some people, and then wrap up for the day. And it would be a good little business. So I went online, found a guy that was selling a coffee trailer for sale up the road, and his dad was a Marine, and he had just passed away recently, and I think he had kind of a little, a little bit of his heart into us with what we were doing, and he says, you know what, I'm gonna teach you guys kind of how to do this. He owned, I don't know, 10 or 12 different coffee shops,
Oh,
and
wow.
the trailer was just kind of at the point to where he'd outgrown it. So he allowed us to owner finance it, and so we owner financed, and then he taught. We all went and sat with his baristas and his roaster, and Charlie and I would go and we would learn everything about it, and then we'd go back and I mean I spent half my time when someone asked a drink on YouTube in the back, while I'm making the drink to try to figure it out. I was like, I don't know what that is because I wasn't much of a coffee drinker.
Uh-huh.
I drank a lot of energy drinks in the military, so I wasn't really huge into coffee. I would go
Uh-huh.
maybe get a peppermint latte or something during the Christmas
Season.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't something I knew a whole lot about. But it became so intriguing, and I started to learn, and there was all these different things. And then I enjoyed. I'm a serving personality, so I always liked when you would make something, and then somebody enjoyed it, right? Like a
Yes.
cook. And then I thought what was funny about it is how this, as a motivational speaker, I was able to have like this platform. I think they did like a news article on me, and I talked about it, and it was like a stage. So when people would come up in the morning, they were tired, depressed, down, depending on if it was a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then all of a sudden, it was like I realized that coffee was a simple luxury that even the common person can try to enjoy to do self-care when we suck so bad at self-care. So this was it was a version of it, it was a version of that self-care. So I remember as I was doing that, it just kind of started sinking for me. And I would start to have conversations with people. And then all of a sudden they were like, wow, you're really motivational. I would never share I was a speaker or whatever. I was always kind of in the background with it. And then I noticed people would come in and they started feeling better and doing this. And that barter exchange for that drink, maybe play in part the caffeine increase, but
Hmm.
it was just that whole connection.
Hmm.
And I said, what's funny is with coffee, if I walk into a random restaurant, a random place, there could be 30 different people drinking coffee and all of them sitting at the table together. They could all
Yes.
be doing different things, right? But you don't see that with food. Food, usually people eat and they eat with a group or they eat with someone. You don't sit down and be like, oh, I'm going to eat this meal next to a stranger a lot of
Hmm.
times. But coffee brings all types of different personalities, and it could be a date, it could be a business deal, it could just be someone retired. And I just really enjoyed that connection. And then I realized my daughter behind it, people would just light up with this little girl that was like, good morning. And she would talk
Hmm.
about her business. And it was just a really cool thing. So that's how we started. We got the trailer. And then the trailer, we traveled a lot with that, got a little more into the roasting side of it, kind of understanding the dynamic of it, doing a little air roaster. And then we moved to a place in Western North Carolina, and we found a little spot. We were running our coffee shop or a trailer during a film festival. And saw this little place on Main Street, and we thought, man, wouldn't that be cute to have a cute little coffee shop on Main Street? Just something simple, something easy. We don't have to drag the trailer around everywhere. And that's how, and so we did. So she and I went in there, and she helped build the flooring, and we put the stuff up, and
Wow.
and we put it all together, and we opened up our little coffee shop in a little town. And that was kind of the start of our growth, as far as the coffee is concerned.
Now, obviously, at some point, employees come into to play here. You've got the coffee shop. Did you both interview the employees?
She did, yeah.
Did you?
That's
Okay.
funny. She did, yeah. So she had a list of questions that she would go through and talk about her company and her business, and we would practice those. And the one thing I try to teach her is like to do the stuff that sucks first, because like dealing with people is challenging, right? Especially when you're running an operation and you're trying to get them to have the same type of vision you do. And then at the level too, right? When you have somebody come in and you interview them, a lot of times they're just looking at this job to pay a couple of bills, or just kind of for the sake of doing it because they're
Hmm.
just kind of living their life. So there's not this wholehearted commitment to be like, I want to be invested in
Yeah.
this organization,
Yeah.
so it makes it challenging. But when Charlie would speak, it would almost be like they didn't care what the pay was, because they looked at almost like it was themselves. Like, I wish I would have had the opportunity as a little kid that maybe my dad would have done this. And there was definitely a lot more of a personal mental connection to that when she would do that. But yeah, she interviewed everybody. She still interviews everybody, has a conversation and talks with them, and does the thing.
Do you find that, well, she's 10 now, is that correct?
Yes,
10?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you find that you got the odd person that would maybe come in for an interview and find it very difficult to take being interviewed by such a young CEO?
No.
Oh,
I
good.
and that's a great question, because it is the weirdest thing, and I don't know if it's her presence or
Hmm.
what, but I mean, she goes in and people. they just they know. A lot of times they do a lot of research on us first and then watch all the news stuff and everything. Now it's a little different. So they'll see her and they'll be like, wait, this little girl's got her stuff together. But not at all. They love it. They love that she's confident. They love that they ask her questions. I mean, it's actually very positive feedback with it.
Well, again, I think that is amazing that she has that. She has that confidence level because I sometimes think, and I'm going to ask you this question: do you think that entrepreneurs, because I'm thinking about Charlie now and how young she is, are entrepreneurs born? And sometimes, because sometimes I think you're born and you're sprinkled with a little something that, okay, you're going to be an entrepreneur. You have the capability of being an entrepreneur, or are they made?
I definitely don't think they're born. I think they are made. I speak for myself in the sense that I am a massive introvert.
Hmm.
It is not. I do not like the extrovert work. I'm not a fan of it all. If I had it my way, I'd be on my own. So entrepreneurship, but has its benefits. I also don't like someone basically telling me what my success is. I
Hmm.
tell Charlie that all the time. I said, you either work for a boss or you work for the customer. You choose which one you want to work for.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the difference is that at the end of the day, a boss will give you a paycheck based on what they think your value is. A customer will give you an amount based on the value you create for them.
Yes.
That's a significant difference when you're living your life and based on, and again, you got to remember where you set your in target too. That's a big difference. I think a lot of people, when they open up a business, they're so married to it that they think that's it forever. The way I train, and teach and coach Charlie is that look, this is a bridge. This is just a bridge to get you to the goals because you don't know what you want. I understand you're doing it with dad and we love it and it's fun and you're into it now. And you might be a little bit more just into it because I'm into it. And it's times as you get older. Like the reality of it is that it's nothing to do with coffee. It's the foundation that structures that allows you to go out into the
Yeah.
world and do whatever it is you need to do or want to do. But you'll have these tools in this toolbox that allow you
Hmm.
to become successful in that. So I think it's entrepreneurs are made for sure because the rest of the world wants you to fit into the system. They
Yeah.
want you to stay in that structure. They want you to go through this program. They want you to stay here. I think entrepreneurs are the ones that maybe go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I think I can go do this. And they kind of paved their own way. And again, life has seasons. So, during one stage of your life, you may think differently than another stage of your life
Hmm.
and also depend on the people that come around you. Because I think as an entrepreneur, I would have never known to be one had I not been around some. And then I
Yes.
realized, like, wait a minute, that's what you can do. Otherwise, great example is why I didn't go to college. So I didn't go to college because I didn't know I could go to college. It's
Uh-huh.
not because I wasn't capable of going to college. I just wasn't around people who said, you want to go to military college? Oh, they
Yeah.
have those. I didn't even know they existed until like 15 years later. I was like, wow, you can actually go to college that's just a military college. There's
Wow.
just all these different things. So I do think that later on in life, there are pieces and things that you learn that allow you to kind of form that and then pick your own path.
It's and I'm glad you pointed out that, obviously what you want changes. You kind of like change a little bit as you get older as well. The conversation I had with my kid the other day, I said, look, dude, mom's 55 and mom still doesn't really know what she wants to do. But I know that I don't come from the school of working for somebody. Because again, I had a boss once tell me that I can't pay you anymore. And I thought to myself, really? So you're telling me this is my net worth right here? You're going to dictate that to me? And then on top of that, I asked him for one day off. I was the first one in the office, last one out every day. I asked him for one day off because my husband was going on deployment. He didn't even look up and he went, no, can do. And I stood there and I thought to myself, okay, that's the last time somebody tells me I can't take a day off. And when somebody said to me the other day, well, it's the old saying about entrepreneurs, we're crazy because we work 80 to 100 hours a week where we could be doing 40 and getting paid for it. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want anybody telling me how much I'm worth or if I can take a day off to hang with my guy or go to my kids' cheer practice or track practice. So I think, I got a little off track there, people, but going back to our original conversation of what you're teaching your child, and it just so happens to be coffee that you're selling, but the lessons that she is learning at such an early age is fantastic. And again, I'm going to put it back on the fact I know for myself, I didn't have that kind of teaching as I grew up. And obviously, I'm assuming same for you. So when you realize that, oh, well, yeah, this can happen. Now you want your kids to be able to, you want to pass that on to your kids. My parents just didn't know what they didn't know, so I just didn't know. I mean,
Well, I
really,
want her to bridge the gap.
yeah.
See, we get older, and then we realize, man, if we'd have done this a little different, or we'd have changed this, or we'd have known this. And I think maybe more my fear projected onto her in the sense of being like, because I'll get a question: is she being a kid? Like, well, what's really being a kid? Avoiding the realities of life for as long as you possibly can, only to not have the tools and resources to get in the real world and spend the next 50 years trying to get yourself in a situation where you're depressed, unhappy, you don't have money, you're going through the system. Like, what if I pumped where her mind is receptive and she's coachable right now, and I can influence that in a positive manner as equally as I can a negative manner. And I can say, let me teach you all of these things, when that way, by the time she's 18 and she's able to go out in the real world, she's built $100 million company. She understands exit, she understands strategy, she understands sales, marketing, operations, right? So now maybe she wants to go to college, she comes back, she wants to go sell her company. She can spend the next 50, 60 years of her life finding love, raising a family,
Mm,
not worrying about all the things of, am I going to be able to pay the bills this month? Am I going to have a place
mm.
to live this month? All those struggles. Is someone going to only pay me what I'm worth? Like, why not? We all have the same one, right? And it's really, really short and really, really fast. I just choose to be able to pour what's left of me into
Yeah.
my little human, so that they can go out and have a longer span of opportunity to enjoy and live. And that's really our end game with this.
I'm glad you pointed out as well the an obvious factor, but again, as parents, I think in the world today, with it being as fast as it is, sometimes I had the privilege of being at home with my kids during deployment. Excuse me, and you're right. At that age, at a young age, I think a lot of parents don't see or are just too busy to see kids are sponges. You can teach them a lot. They are hungry to learn. And I think we get lost on the track of it all being academia rather than life lessons. So, again, the whole sponge, they are sponges, and we should take more advantage of that as parents.
Well, I think it's selfishness, if I'm being honest. I think we're a lot of adults are holding on to something. I want to live my life. I want to do my freedom, not realizing what being a parent is.
Yeah.
A parent is a sacrifice and a responsibility you take as a leader.
Hmm.
My job, I'm not here for shame. I'm not here to be like, oh, I need to go. I had my time to do
Hmm.
that. And I could have, I made a choice to have a child. It wasn't something, oh, it was an accident. I mean, I
Yeah.
made a choice to do that. So I was in sound mind and body, right? And when I accepted that responsibility, my responsibility is to pour everything into this person so that they can go off and live their life. And then when that's there, maybe I can get a little bit of my time back. But I
Hmm.
don't go into it with oh, go play and go play in your room and go hide, or go do this and do whatever. Like, no, I'm gonna every minute, let's go hang out, let's go do this, let's go spend time together, let's enjoy, let's do all of this stuff together, let's build, let's grow, let's go in this meeting, whatever we need to do. Like, I don't need time for myself. She is my time.
Yeah.
That is my
Yeah.
most important thing in my life.
Yeah, I think again, a lot of parents, I'm guilty of it. I mean, again, there are times when I've been like, oh my gosh, no, I forgot this. Like, I've got to run and get this, and I hate rushing for my kids. It's a balance. And I think that as a military mom, I find that balance hard to find sometimes, trying to do it all and still trying to do it as well. But again, huge kudos just for your mindset. Not a lot of people have taken the time to take a step back and just think, okay, got a kid. What's it mean? What's it really mean? You know? And again, like I said, I feel incredibly fortunate that I've managed to have these deployments with the kids to find out how they really are. And today, Like you, I'm incredibly proud of the two that I've got, and like you, I just want them to go do some good stuff. These are the ground rules. Now you know them. Go do some good stuff. I want to get back quickly to the coffee because I want to talk a little bit about. Obviously, you guys are involved in the roasting, the very start of the coffee. Now you've gone into hydroponics, which again is way above my pay scale. So tell us about that. You went down to a farm. It was a veteran that owned the farm.
No, ma'am. Well, sort of. So I went through a program for disabled veterans at Appalachian State University, and there
Okay.
was a Navy veteran that had a lettuce hydroponic farm. And he was sharing with me about hydroponics, and I was very naive, just like you are to it. Hydroponics been around, aquaponics been around since time of Babylon. It's nothing new. It's just now it seems to be more prevalent in the way the climate and community and the consumer is thinking and land and so on and so forth. So I just was very intrigued, and I'm very I get obsessed about something. When I get obsessed with something, I have to just get everything about that knowledge. I have to consume it. So I was asking them questions, and also too, it's just coffee. Coffee's like the biggest rig and gimmick in the world. So when you go and you walk into a store and you're going to select your bag of coffee, the irony of it is that 60% of those bags, more than likely, the same coffee comes from the same farm, right? Or same co-op, same collection of farms. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just the difference between what do you want to spend your money on, that story or that story or this story or this thing. And that's consumer packaged goods as a whole. Shoot, that's probably just about everything in America because we're very service based. So, you have to determine like if I'm going to buy the product, first it's the story that sells me, and then let's hope that the product is good. And if it's good, then it's a double whammy. And if not, then I'm going to move on to the next story. And my brain works differently, I guess, than some people. I'm not sure what it is, but I just didn't like the thought of being like everybody else. It
Mm-hmm.
really bugged me. And so I was like, well, what if we grow coffee in the United States? Like how naive I was to it. And it was like, well, you can't, it's too cold and the climate's not right for it. And all things I didn't know. But I didn't even research that. So I got a greenhouse, a little one from like Lowe's,
Mm-hmm.
and I got some coffee seeds, got some buckets, taught myself everything on YouTube, went back and I just threw it in a little greenhouse, planted it with no clue with what I was doing, and just started growing coffee. And I say just started growing coffee. It was not that easy, but there was no research on it. There's still no research. We are the only ones in the United States. Matter of fact, we just got called from Netherlands, Sweden,
Wow.
Germany, Korea, Japan. This article in Vertical Farm Daily just went out this morning, and we're getting all these phone calls because no one's in Canada, no one's ever done it. So they're all like,
Oh,
"How did you do it? And what's going on?" And it's just been mind blowing with this thing. So we that's how we started. We started growing coffee, and then it turned into having a NASA scientist involved, and then we built our first little small scale farm. And now we're at the stage where we're probably going to franchise out farms and work on co-ops where we build multiple ones in Montana, Kentucky, Florida, and they'll
that's
have them grow it,
crazy.
and then we'll harvest that coffee and then sell it, and then local roasters or restaurants or so on and so forth. And yeah, that's
That
pretty much how it came together.
that is, something that blows my mind because again, yeah, you are very different. Your mind does work, differently. I always think to myself, I've always said that when I dream, I'm going to dream big. That's how I dream. But this is really crazy. Like I would never have thought of I can't even say it. Hydroponics.
Yes, ma'am.
What is it? Like, what exactly is it?
It's the process of growing in water, basically, is the gist of it. So
Okay.
you got a bucket. It's real simple. You got a bucket. That bucket has kind of like fake soil. In that fake soil, you put the plant, and then water with vitamins and nutrients basically go in and then go out. And that's pretty much the gist of it.
Did you have to use special water then, or no?
No, no, you can use regular water. I mean, there's obviously different things you want to be careful of that your water doesn't have, but
Yeah.
usually there's nothing too crazy in water that causes a lot of problems. But no, you just use regular water, put it in there, put your nutrients in, and then go for it.
Now you went from, so you've got a hydro, is that where you get your beans from now for your product?
Not all of them, no, ma'am.
Okay.
So we work with small fair trade farms, independent small farms in Colombia that we get our bean from now. And then it's kind of like a co-work relationship. So we're also teaching them about hydroponics in addition to us doing it here. So that way, hopefully, everybody can kind of look at it as an alternative. It's not, it will never compete with the coffee market, but
Yeah.
it will provide an additional or an alternative to some of the growing and some of the space. It's kind of the
How many people, how many, how big is, Big Guns Coffee? How many people do you have working with you?
Not very many. We just have five. We're just a little operation. And so we're on that really weird stage where we're almost at the point to where we're just gonna explode, but it's now it becomes that part of the operational structure and all that fun stuff and capital raise and
Hmm.
I say fun, the really boring stuff, but
It's got to be done.
that's it's got to be done, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of where we are right now. And it's just a matter of path, which path we go to. Do we go in this direction or this direction? Do we franchise farms? Do we, become a roaster? There's a lot of moving parts to it that we still have to learn and be a part of.
Now, as you guys have grown this business, obviously somewhere along the line, I'm assuming that maybe you both have not been in agreement over maybe an idea or something like that. So um, how do you guys discuss your differences of opinion with the business? How do you resolve it?
Um, Between Charlie and I,
Yes.
oh, I just do what she tells me to do. Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Um, Yeah, we have an extremely fluid and healthy relationship. There's
Uh-huh.
no egos driven
Yeah.
here. You have to understand, I think that's also where people kind of get a little lost with me, is that they get confused. This is my daughter's business. This is not
Yes.
my business.
Yes.
She built this, it's her idea. My job is to support in any possible way I can to make it as effective as possible with my knowledge and
Hmm.
resources. But all decisions are made and ran by her. Give me an example. We had the coffee shop open this past Friday. She and I have been traveling a lot. This lady came in off the streets and she, said, gave us a story, right? My kid's sick. I don't have any money. I'm willing to work for some money. I got to go buy medicine, right? It's everything that a scam would be a scam as far as someone coming in, maybe for drugs or alcohol or something.
Hmm.
So the lady comes to me and she's like, I'm willing to work. She was actually pretty well put together. So it was kind of a 50-50 on whether I believed it or not. And I'm very direct. So I was like, well, you're coming in here. This does sound like a scam. I'm not gonna lie to you. It sounds like you're telling me something. I said, but here's what's gonna happen. I don't run the business. My daughter runs the business.
Hmm.
So if you're gonna take money today, you're gonna take it from that 10-year-old girl over here who's trying to build her business. It's valuable. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring her over here. You're gonna tell your story, and if she approves it, then it's good to go because that's her business.
Yeah.
And so I stepped away, in a sense of allowing her space, let the woman tell her what was going on. And she looked at her and she says, I'd be glad to help you one way or another, good, bad, or indifferent. And she went and grabbed $46 from the register and took it back and gave it to the lady. And the lady leaves. And I said, well, here's a lesson, right? I said, there's a 50-50 shot. Let's say she's lying. Now we could think like everyone else, right? Or we could think like us and we can say, what if today we just helped a kid get medicine? What if we just helped a mom that just is going through a really tough time and had to sit in the car for 40 minutes to build up the courage to come in crying and
Wow.
asking for money and feel embarrassed? We can look at it either way. We can
Hmm.
pick, and then we can pick which one we want to run with, right? We can run
Hmm.
with the negative side of it and just be like, people are horrible, but we can look at it like today, our business provided an opportunity to save a family. You know,
Wow.
we'll never really know, but how we choose to look at it is how we look at it. And she was like, Dad, I felt good about that. And I said, well, then that's all that matters. And that's
Wow.
pretty much the decisions how we do it. I run it past her, get her thoughts. I offer my advice, but she makes the final say so.
That is so powerful what you just said. It is I mean life is a choice. Everything we do every day, we have a choice. And we we sometimes take the easy one that everybody goes with. So again, I mean, this just from a parent perspective talking to you today, my heart feels, just amazed, and just it's wonderful to hear such a good story, not just about building a business. Because, like I said, I've spoken to a lot of people that have built businesses, but this is very different because it's father and daughter, and there's a lot of good intention behind it. And I love that because, again, a lot of people start a business, I feel sometimes because they think it's glamorous, they're the boss, they're going to make money, and they don't realize. how difficult and stressful it can be. So let's talk about that just for a little bit because we both know as entrepreneurs how stressful that can be sometimes. Does Charlie get stressed? How does she deal with her stress? What do you think about her? Is it healthy stress?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were in Reno last week. We were at a 2-day conference, a 3-day conference, and or a trade show where we were invited to pitch our product to about
Mm-hmm.
130 different retailers. And it was an absolute nightmare from day one. We were trying to get a big giant order out from Sprouts. This is our first time doing it. We're trying to navigate between staff conversations. Everybody's got their own personalities and egos involved. Trying to balance that. Our plane got delayed because of weather. We got put down in
Wow.
California versus Reno, so we had to take an Uber 2 hours, and we spent 14 hours just drive, in you commuting and getting everything
Yeah.
squared away and travel. We finally get to the hotel. The hotel was wrong and
Oh my
all
gosh.
these things. Then we get in, we get everything all set up, ready to go. Then she gets sick. So she has to be gone for half a day. And she was so frustrated because everybody came there is looking for her. She's
Mm-hmm.
up in the hotel room sick and of course she's asking me, how's it going, Dad? How are things doing? And I'm like, well, people are looking for you, people are asking for you. And like anything else, and one of the things that we stay steady on is, and she even reminded me of the other day, I got a little frustrated, and she says, Dad, something bad's happened, and that means something really good's about to happen.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's how we always say it. We say if things are going really wrong, it means something really good's going to happen. And it 99.9% of the time, that's what happens. And it ended up she had one day on the floor. She came in on one day, finally got healed up, finally feeling good, a little stuffy, but came in. She was good. She worked the floor, made $14,000 in sales and coffee in less than 6 hours, 147 orders from multiple stores
Wow.
in Hawaii, Oregon, all West Coast,
Wow.
California, and it was an amazing turnout, all in all. So she was right yet again.
Wow. I mean, that is just first of all, I mean, those kind of words of wisdom, something's good's gonna happen, Dad. They don't normally come from a 10-year-old. You know? I think most 10-year-olds, most kids these days, because of this, you can't see it now, the phone, it's technology. I mean, I have such a love-hate relationship with it, but most kids are buried in there. So again, wise. She's obviously an old soul. She's been here before, I feel. She's so incredibly smart. And that statement is wonderful. Now, going back to this hydroponics, because again, I'm going to get this right. Because you know what I'm going to do? As soon as I come off here, I'm going to go get a bucket, put some soil in it. I'm going to find some seeds and see if I can grow something because I don't have a green thumb. I could kill a cacti. So this seems to be quite simple. I'm going to try growing something with it,
If
something
you
to.
do if you do that, do what's called a DWC bucket. It's deep water culture bucket. They sell them on Amazon. They sell them in one or two. It's a 5 gallon bucket. It comes as a kit, super easy to do. And then just pick your poison as far as what you want to grow. Right. Usually the easiest I would say to start with is a tomato.
Oh, perfect.
Tomatoes do great. You just plug them in, plant them, and they'll grow like crazy, and they'll have beautiful tomatoes on them, and they're super easy to monitor and manage. And that would be the first. And honestly, I think you'll get bit by the bug because once you see that and see how you can grow that produce so fast, so quick, and it tastes so delicious, you're like, holy cow, like this is pretty cool. I mean, I got so obsessed with it, even still to this day. Like when I go into the farm and I'm working on it, I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, we're just picking coffee cherries inside this building. Like it's mind blowing. So just
Wow.
really, really, really cool stuff. So that would be my recommendation. Super, super simple, super easy. Doesn't cost a ton of money, and it's a great way to get started.
Now, from the hydroponic, though, you guys went on to, recycling your coffee grounds to making soap and candles. Whose idea was that?
That
Was it?
was well, it was a little bit of us both because we came up with the tagline: we grow it, we roast it, we serve it, we recycle it.
I love that.
And I didn't like all this waste that was coming from coffee grains. Again, carbon footprint, like waste. And again, and if I'm being honest, it was my marketing brain of like, how can we sell? When people are so linear sometimes, they sell a product and they don't look at how they can sell four more products out of that
Hmm.
one product. So, and you don't have to utilize a lot of people to do it. So I was looking at all these coffee grinds building up, and I was like, Charlie, why don't we go put this at the house? And I have a rose bush out front, and we sprinkled them on the rose bush. And honestly, I just totally forgot about it. I didn't even think anything of it. And I didn't know that you put them on rose bushes.
Hmm.
Again, very naive. I came back, and it was like a few months later, those roses were unbelievable. They were just red, big, and bloom. And then I Googled it. I'm like, oh wait, coffee grinds are really great for
Hmm.
roses and tomatoes and all these other things. And so then an aha moment happened for me, and I was like, man, what if we could? And then as I started learning about soaps and candles and the benefits of the product, and so we went and started making little soaps, and then we put the coffee grinds in them, and they smelled great. Then all the benefits of the coffee, the caffeine, the cellulite, the help with black circles, your skin. It was just all these positive things, and uh, and that's kind of how it started. And we just found that it was a way to kind of minimize the excess of what we have with our product, and then turn it into an additional vertical, and and grow a different part of that business. And when we just got back from Reno, we just sold I think like 900 bars of soap, which
Wow.
I'm not sure how we're going to fulfill the order, but
It's a nice
we
problem to
yeah, it's
have.
a nice problem to have, but we realize that there's a need for it.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity there for someone to build a great business,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how it came to fruition.
I used to give the coffee grounds because my dad back home in Scotland with, tea drinker used to use the loose leaf teas. So he would put the tea outside around the rose bushes and they looked really good. And then when I opened my business, I used to leave the grinds, I'd bag them for the guys. And they would just take them away and use them in their backyard. And I never thought anything more of it simply because, again, I could kill a cacti, so I thought, okay, you guys go do it. But yeah, and I didn't think of that until I remembered my dad doing it with loose leaf tea. So I guess tea's also a good thing
Mhm.
to put around as well. Um, Talking of tea, do you guys in your coffee shop, obviously you have tea selections as well?
We do. We just we've got K pods now, which is
Uh-huh.
a big thing. Seems like everybody's shifting to on the K cups, K pods sort of deal. So we're going to work on some teas with that. I try to stay. One thing I don't want to do is change my produce product.
Yeah.
So coffee's what we grow. Coffee farming is the future of what we're doing. So I'm trying to stay in that lane just because there's so much going on, and at least that coffee kind of falls within all those different
Yeah.
lines. But yeah, we offer tea for those that drink tea for sure.
Yeah. So let me ask you, T. Shane, how can people get your coffee? Tell us all your social media handles, your website, so we can go to it and order abundance of coffee and soap.
Yes, ma'am. So biggunscoffee.com for our website, and Big Guns Coffee for all of our social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all of that fun stuff.
Now, I just want to ask you before we finish this, because you do have a remarkable uh, backstory. And I'd love to have you on the show again just to talk about that. But you have been in some situations prior to joining the military that were just not good, you know. Um, but you made a decision to join the military and you made a decision to join the Marines. Why the Marines?
I wanted to be the best.
Well, that
I mean,
answer.
yeah, I mean, 270 plus years and never losing the battle.
Hmm.
The uniforms look great. Just all joking aside, the Marine Corps, obviously I didn't go to the other branches. So
Hmm.
the Marine Corps, I had to earn that. And I liked that. I liked
Yeah,
that I had to earn it, and that I could have failed something, which means that I've become a part of something.
yeah.
And the Marine Corps got, yeah, like every military, it's got its own little nuances and things you don't like. But I love the fact of being a Marine. I love that I accomplished that at such a young age, and I think that set precedents for so many things in the future. And it did taught me a lot about, or teach me a lot about overcoming adversity, going through
Hmm.
challenges, and embracing pain as an ally versus an enemy. And it was great. I love it. It's not how I live my life. It doesn't base everything off of being a Marine, but
Hmm.
it laid a phenomenal foundation for the future for sure.
And obviously it has helped you your time in the military. has helped you run a business. Do you think that's an accurate statement? Like that time frame has taught you things that would, now I can run this business.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
if you're able to translate it, I
Yeah.
think not all of it, but I think there's translations there that you can pick from and pull, and certain things that I can go, oh, well, when I was in the Marine Corps, it taught me to do this. But I think that, I mean, look, business is, fortunately now there's a lot of information online, a lot of ways you can learn, almost too much and not always the best advice. But I think the Marine Corps for me taught me just to never quit. And that's really what you need in business, because you're going to want to quit like every single day. So, the Marine Corps kind of teaches like, don't quit, because if you quit, you'll be that loser that quit, and everybody will remind you of that. And fear-based or not, it works really, really well. So for me, it's like, I don't want to quit. I want to keep going, even when I want to. I just
Hmm.
keep my feet.
Listen, it has been great having you on the show today, learning about Charlie. I hope we get Charlie on the show at some point during the future, because it would be great just to hear her, her story and her advice for some young entrepreneurs. But talking of advice, let me ask you, advice for a young entrepreneur today coming out the military, wants to build a business. What would your advice to them be?
Well, my first one would be just take massive action as quickly as possible, right? So just, if you think about it, just do it, and you're going to fail. Just accept it. I mean, you're going to fail. You're going to fail on the first business. You're going to fail on the second business, third business. I mean, very rarely does somebody hit it right out of the park. And you just keep trying. Just don't ever give up. I know it sounds cliche, but it is so very true. I mean, even as seasoned as I am, and it's my daughter and all of these things, sometimes I get up and I want to quit. I'm like, I don't really want to deal with this person today, or I don't want to deal with this challenge of the business. Like, I don't feel like serving coffee to people at 5 o'clock in the morning this morning. I don't want to travel all the way and hear everybody's problems.
Yeah.
It's not always positive. There's actually probably more negative that comes with it than there is positive. And you have to just keep going and realizing that it is hard and it is tough, but it will happen for you. Again, just like Charlie says, it's tough and bad, but that means something really good's going to happen. And I think you got to hold on to that.
I think those are really wise words. Again, T-Shane, thank you for being on the show today. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Follow me on social media at The Goode Show. You can also catch us on YouTube as well at The Goode Show. And remember, it's Big Guns Coffee. T-Shane, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to The Goode Show. I hope you have been inspired by today's conversation. If you loved what you heard, help us spread the word. Follow me on Instagram at The Goode Show. As military spouses, we all have stories to share, experiences, resources, and support. I want to hear your story and highlight your business. Let's connect, DM me, or visit surindergoode.com to share your journey. Until next time, take care, stay inspired, and keep doing good things.